IF. Community and belonging. Building a social base fast and staying mentally strong. The first month in a new country can look like success from the outside. You found an apartment that doesn't feel like a trap. Your banking works. You can get a SIM card without begging a stranger for help. You've located a clinic you trust and a pharmacy that carries what you need. You have a routine. And yet, at some point, often at night, often after you've handled one more piece of paperwork, you feel it. The quiet. Not the pleasant quiet of a calm neighborhood, the social quiet. The absence of people who know your story without you having to explain it. The absence of casual invitations. The absence of a friend who will tell you, gently, that you're spiraling a little and should go outside. In the 2026 to 2030 window, community isn't a nice to have, it's a survival input. The AI labor shock didn't only change paychecks, it changed identity. And when identity is shaky, isolation turns normal friction into panic. This chapter is about building a social base fast, without forcing intimacy, and staying mentally strong while you rebuild your life system abroad. The hidden risk of geo-arbitrage, social poverty. With 500K, you tend to focus on visible safety, neighborhood, lease terms, residency, healthcare, banking, taxes. But there's another kind of safety you can't wire transfer, social safety. Social safety is knowing who to call when your landlord changes the rules mid-lease, when you get sick and need someone to translate, when your mood drops and your brain starts whispering that the move was a mistake. It's having people around you who can say, "That's normal here," or "That's a scam," or simply, "Come eat." In the US, even a lonely life still has familiarity. Abroad, the defaults vanish. How friendly strangers are, how direct people speak, how invitations work, how yes and maybe sound in practice. If you don't replace that familiarity with relationships, your mind tries to compensate by controlling what it can. Obsessive research, doom scrolling, constant second-guessing. That's how people burn runway, not on one big disaster, but on 100 anxious decisions. Why making friends is harder than you expect. Friendship usually isn't built through grand moments. It's built through repeated, low-stakes proximity. Back home, you saw the same people without scheduling it. Coworkers, neighbors, parents at school, the regulars at your gym, the person who always walked their dog at 7 a.m. When you move, you remove the repetition engine. You also lose your status markers. In a new country, nobody cares what your title was. If you're already grieving a disrupted career, this can feel like a second loss. You're not only starting over geographically, you're starting over socially. And most adults are rusty at building friendships from scratch. Work used to do it. School used to do it. Community institutions used to do it. Now it's you, alone in a new city, with a calendar full of administrative tasks. If you wait for community to happen, it often won't. You have to build it the way you built banking, deliberately with redundancy. The core principle: community is infrastructure, not entertainment. For this book, community isn't mainly about parties, it's infrastructure. A functional social base does three things. First, it reduces cognitive load. Someone can tell you what's normal, what's rude, what's a fair price, what documents a landlord actually needs. Second, it reduces risk. You get better referrals, accountants, doctors, mechanics, schools, safe neighborhoods. You hear about common scams before you become a lesson for someone else. Third, it increases resilience. When work falls through or a crisis hits the news, you recover faster if you aren't alone. You're not trying to become a social butterfly. You're trying to stop being socially fragile. The 30-day social base plan. Build small, build steady. The fastest way to build belonging is to stop aiming for best friends and start building a ladder. Familiar faces, light acquaintances, practical allies, actual friends. Build it in that order. If you skip rungs, you come off intense or you get disappointed. Week 1. Create repetition on purpose. Pick 3 repeatable places, not tourist experiences. A cafe you can work from, a gym or yoga studio or walking route, a market or grocery store. Go at roughly the same time, several times. You're doing one thing, becoming a familiar face. When staff recognizes you, your nervous system softens. When your nervous system softens, you become more approachable. And you start learning micro rules, how greetings work, how people ask for help, how they handle problems, how they joke. Competence is social lubrication. Week 2, join one thing that meets weekly. Choose one structured activity that meets at least weekly and creates natural conversation. Language classes, martial arts, climbing, a running group, a volunteer shift, a choir, a faith community, a board game night. The key is the schedule, not the activity. Weekly contact turns strangers into the people I see. That's the seed of belonging. Make it easy to keep. If you pick something that takes an hour of commuting and heroic motivation, you'll quit right when it starts to work. Week 3, convert 2 acquaintances into practical allies. A practical ally is not an intimate friend. It's someone you can ask a normal question and get a normal answer. Invite 2 people to something simple in daytime. Coffee, a walk, lunch after class. Keep it short. No big emotional story. No long explanation of why you moved. Ask about them. Ask what they wish foreigners understood. In many cultures, trust builds slowly. You're showing consistency, not trying to bond in one sitting. Week 4, host small, on purpose. Hosting is the shortcut because it creates a container. You don't need a perfect apartment. You need a simple offering: tea, fruit, bread, something easy. Invite a few people from your weekly activity, or one neighbor and one classmate. Make it early enough that it naturally ends. This is how adults create community. A small ritual, repeated. The integration balance: locals, expats, and the trap of either or. Many Americans swing between 2 extremes. One is only hanging out with expats because it's easy. The other is refusing expat circles because it feels like not really integrating. Both are mistakes. Expats are useful for fast orientation: how paperwork works, which neighborhoods are livable, what to watch out for. Locals are the long-term anchor: language, cultural fluency, deeper belonging, and fewer echo chambers. A good target is a mixed social diet. Some people who share your reference points, and some people who don't. That mix makes you steadier and less reactive to local frustrations. Boundaries: money, politics, and the speed of trust. When you have $500K and you're living in a lower-cost country, the perception gap can create awkwardness. Don't lead with money. Don't talk about your portfolio. Don't present yourself as a benefactor. Generosity is fine, but ambiguity is dangerous. Use clean phrases that protect relationships without drama. I keep money separate from friendships. I don't lend money, but I can help you look for resources. I'm keeping my budget strict while I rebuild income. Also, be careful about fast intimacy. In some places, people are warm immediately. In others, warmth is earned slowly. In both cases, keep your trust pace steady. You can be friendly without becoming financially or emotionally entangled. Staying mentally strong: routines that prevent isolation from turning into fear. Isolation often doesn't feel like sadness at first. It feels like irritability, insomnia, or the sense that everything is harder than it should be. Your defense is not willpower, it's rituals. A daily walk outside, even if it's boring. A weekly commitment with other humans, even if you don't feel like talking. A no doom scrolling before bed rule, especially when global news spikes. A simple physical routine: strength training, swimming, yoga, anything consistent. A small creative output: writing, cooking, learning the language, building a tiny project. It reminds your brain that you can still make things in the new world. And when you notice the classic signs of spiraling: canceling plans, staying indoors, obsessing over the next move, treat it like a system alert, not a personality flaw. The correct response is usually go outside, see a familiar face, do one small social action. When you need more than community, mental health support abroad. Sometimes you can build routines and still struggle. Relocation can surface old anxiety or depression. The AI labor shock adds existential stress. What am I for now? Where do I fit? What if I never rebuild my income? Treat mental health like healthcare, part of the life system. Many people do well with teletherapy in English, local therapists if you find the right fit, or support groups focused on transition. The mistake is waiting until you're in crisis. Early stabilization, especially in the first 6 months, protects your runway because it prevents panic decisions. A simple definition of success: people who would notice if you disappeared. You don't need a huge friend group. A strong social base is a few people who would notice if you disappeared. Someone at the cafe who says, "Haven't seen you." Someone from class who texts if you miss a week. A neighbor who knows your name. That's the social equivalent of a backup account. It means your life isn't a single point of failure. You're not just moving to a cheaper place. You're building a base camp for 2026-2030. Base camp isn't only an apartment with good locks and reliable internet. It's also a set of humans who make you feel, in your body, that you are not alone in the new world you're building. In the next chapter, we'll extend this foundation to a high-stakes version of belonging. Raising kids and supporting family overseas. School choices, safe routines, elder care logistics, and how to build stability for the people who depend on you.